What up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? My name is Frank Espino. You guys know me as Polaroid Fox from the small podcast Co-opus Therapy. This is an extension of our emotional rec label. This show is called Intergalactic Donutshop, where I'm the host and I get to interview entrepreneurs, creatives of all kinds, musicians, and just people of general interest as we break the ice with some donuts and coffee.
Oh yeah.
So let's get started. So today, for the Intergalactic Donuts, for the month of January, I like to have something called the Intergalactic Roscas, which is more of a Latino, Hispanic, Mexican, Chicano uh, based thing. Most people that are like Mexican or Catholic know what the rosca is. Um, so this is just kind of an extension of that, where instead of donuts and coffee, we're gonna be doing pan dulce and coffee as well. So for this month, I'm interviewing a few like do you consider yourself like Latino, Mexican, Chicano, or what?
Yeah, I think I'll take all three.
All three? Okay. So I have a a Latino creator here, um, Theodore. Theodore last name.
Theodore 1991.
All right. So Theodore 1991, the founder and one of the creators because of the clothing brand Stay Brown.
Oh yeah.
So um, Theodore was generous enough to bring us some pan dulce from one of his favorite panaderias,
Hell yeah. Pink
uh,
elephant.
Pink Elephant.
hmm
So, what stands out for you with the Pink Elephant panaderia?
For me, pink elephant. Well, for one, it's smack dab in the middle of the East Side San Jose, and has become, in my opinion, a cultural staple in San Jose. So there are plenty of other panaderias, and I'm sure they have great bread. But I don't know, something keeps coming back to this iconic place. And while I was going through college, I was doing projects. There was a sort of a light that switched, or I flipped a switch in the middle of my journey and was like, hey, I need to be producing more projects that are gonna like fulfill me and make me happy,
Yeah.
because trying to go by the guidelines that some of these people have was ridiculous. So Peak Elephant was like, I had to do a branding project. Reached out to them, was like, hey, I'm doing this, are you down to just contribute or like be open to seeing what I got? And so I presented them with something. The owners are very traditional, so I wasn't able to like move them too far. And I was just really exploring my own journey. I was just thinking about like, damn, I should really approach them soon again.
Yeah.
But they ended up taking part of my design, and I heavily influenced the interior design of that place. Um, and I was reflecting on it today as I was like getting my order. So yeah, for those reasons, I think it does the job, and it's great bread. It's always nice, tasty.
Have you been going there a lot?
Yeah, I think throughout my life, not consistently, but whenever I find a nice gap where I'm like, I need some bun, I need some good
Yeah, yeah,
bun,
yeah.
like that's always my feel good spot.
Was it? I know, like at least for me, growing up, one of those things was like on the weekends, like cat
True.
getting the bond and coming back and
Yeah.
being able to like kind of like chit chat with like my siblings or my
True.
parents and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that I continue to do now,
Nice.
even when I went to go pick up bread for another episode,
Uh-huh.
where it was like, man, like I've been coming here forever, and there's at the place that I go to is called Sawayo,
Okay.
and they had this, and I remember it still. They had a machine like one of the little egg machines where you put the quarter and the toy comes out,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it had like a clown on a swing inside of it,
Okay.
and it was weird. But that's one of those things that stuck out to me
Yeah.
because ever since I was little going there, that has always been there, and I
Dang.
think it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years ago that
Mhm.
when I went in and it wasn't there anymore, I was like, I'm like, why? When did they get rid of
Yeah,
this?
like
And
what
it's
happened?
just one of those where it's been there for so long that every time I look over in a specific section of the store,
Yeah.
like I automatically see it, but it's not actually
Right,
there.
right.
So that's one of those where I'm like, oh damn, like that's so crazy.
Did you ever ask him like what happened to
No,
it?
I never
Oh
do.
man, you gotta
I
ask
never
him.
do. I'm
Yeah,
always
yeah.
like, I always feel like, man, like they're probably like, well, it was hella old. Like we just got rid of
Right.
it.
You should have gave it
So
to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Dang.
it was definitely like, though it was still like in good condition. Some of
Hmm.
the paint was already like faded,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some of it was chipping off. And it
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, like you gotta just toss that, I guess. Um, so what is your go-to bread when you go to the panaderia?
Um, it's changed over the years. I think it was conchas at first, classic, and then it turned into cuernos, which is definitely my go-to still now.
Yeah.
But my dad also introduced me to the empanadas with the custard inside,
Hmm.
and those have been bangers for me. So between those two, I never liked the custard ones before, but for some reason at a certain age, your taste
Yeah.
buds change and everything and palates or whatever. But yeah, I think it's switched over recently within the past like 5 years. So yeah, the pink cuerno, oh no, and the elote one too, the yellow one. It's similar style of the cuerno, but instead of it being like the croissant, just like a flat or the flat one with
Oh, okay.
the
I think
yellow
yeah.
on top. But yeah, not the conchas for me. They're great when they're fresh, but like it just feels too airy. And then,
Mm.
but like when I bite into something else or bite into like the cuerno, it seems more filling for some because
Yeah,
it's more
no,
dense.
definitely.
So yeah.
Like the guarno, there's like they look like the turtle shell ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are
Yeah,
like one
yeah,
of my favorites too.
yeah. I think that yeah,
Um,
that's the one.
and just like bolillo, like in general, like
Mm,
bolillo, I love, especially like drinking hot chocolate sometimes.
true.
Like just breaking the bolillo, dipping it
Yeah.
in, and then you get like all that chocolate in the
Hell yeah.
bolillo. So that's one of those really really good ones.
My wife's late father, he used to dip bolillos in, he's Salvadorian, so they had that like banana soda, and
Oh,
he would
okay.
like dip them in banana soda, and that
Oh,
was like
really?
his sweet snack. I was like, oh yeah, sure.
That's yeah, that's different for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
So one of the questions I did want to ask you,
Yeah,
so you've been working on Stay Brown for maybe what, like two or
two
three
years.
years?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so um, besides Stay Brown, like what's your like origin story? Like where does uh, Theodore 1991 come from? Like where's that creative part of you? How did that come to be?
Damn. Yeah, that takes it back. I mean, for one, um, Theodore is like it's my first name, and it's not a name I ever liked growing up. It was like, what the hell is that
Yeah,
kind of name, right? Um, and I went by my middle name, Andres. And then for me, I always knew I was creative. I always knew I was sort of artistic. Um, Throughout school, I felt like I was taking the easy way out by taking like an art class. Like, oh yeah,
yeah,
it's easy. Passes. I have fun, no problem. And then at some point I realized like, oh yeah, not everyone likes to go to art class. Like not
yeah,
everyone digs that. Not everyone's good at it. So but unfortunately I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome and a lot of unknown anxiety as a child,
yeah.
and I didn't recognize that until I got older, and had to and still like dealing with my emotions and stuff, learning how to deal with them. But so it was like that whole phase all the way up until maybe high school is when I reintroduced the idea of my first name, Theodore. But even then, I was playing baseball. My coach was naming off the roster and he said Theo. I was like, oh, I never heard of that. I never heard it
Yeah.
like that. My dad is also Theodore, but he goes by Ted. So I knew I didn't want
Okay.
that. But And then I was like, okay, Theo, I can do that. And so like high school on, I was Theo. And even that was a little adaptive to me because all my family and like childhood friends knew me as Andres,
Yeah.
which even then was a tricky one because I was never able to roll my R's, and like
Oh,
all my friends around me didn't
yeah.
know, so it was Andreas, and my parents like hated me for that.
Mm,
But eventually, I think after college, and then I started my first gig, and then I sort of just leaned into more of like my Chicano side, and sort of also like graffiti origins, that sort of artistic background, which then led me to like find pride in my name and where I came from, what I was. So Theodore1991 sort of represents that Chicano aspect of things, and just like graffiti, like so like typically other graffiti artists, they tag their name and they put the year that they started writing or that they were born.
yeah.
So it was like, okay, Theodore 1991. That's the year, that's the era that I was from. And Theodore is just my proper name, so I was like,
Yeah.
might as well just see what the world thinks of this, as I was transitioning into like my own being, moved out at the time, with I think I was married at the time too, so kind of figuring all that out, or just got married, so figuring it all out. And then embracing just this side of me that I was uncomfortable with, so constantly putting myself in uncomfortable positions. And yeah, I'm still really defining myself as an artist, but I'm seeing it more and more. I think I'm just I've learned that my human design is a generator,
Yeah.
and so which I'm still understanding that idea because I feel like I have such a visionary like intent and like kind of perspective, but when I get put to the test, it kind of gets hard to put things into play. But so yeah, defining myself as an artist. I'm a trained graphic designer by trade. So I spent 5 years at the Art Institute in San Francisco, developed my love for graphic design, and with all like I went into it thinking I'm gonna start this streetwear brand. I'm gonna kill it. Like it's gonna be that's the only reason why I'm going to college for a graphic
Yeah.
design degree. And then I went to this trade show called the Magic Show in Vegas, and filled with streetwear brands, like all my favorites, and then
Yeah.
more than I could ever imagine. And then I quickly realized, like, I need to stand out in this.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay, maybe not. Maybe I'll find some other route. So I went through and was like, all right, I'm just gonna get a badass job as a designer. I'm gonna do cool projects and be no problem. And then just yeah, more of that imposter syndrome and all those just like inner dialogue wasn't allowing me to contribute to who I was as a creative. And I think Stay Brown, I knew was as it grew as a brand, I was gonna grow as a person. So it really helped me define myself as a creative because realistically, like I've been a graphic designer since 2010 when I started school,
Yeah.
but I never really like created a lot for myself, like as an artist. So it was like very frustrating because I put all my effort into my work thinking, oh, this is how I'm going to pursue myself as an artist. And then after people telling me and just conversations and experience, I was like, this is not the way to fulfill myself as an artist. And because half of these people don't give a shit. They're like, as long as the job's done and it looks great, like, who cares?
Do you with well, were you in the graffiti scene when you were growing up?
Yeah, I admired it from a distance.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I dipped into it a little bit, but I was always too scared of the consequences.
Yeah.
So, that I did like wheat pasting because I was able to prep everything and then
Then you
put it
get it
up,
all out. Yeah.
kind of thing. Uh, but but I was always admiring. I think I was always that's kind of what led into um, like everything that is now. But at the time, I just even though I wasn't as active, I didn't understand that just simply being exposed to like the graffiti scene and all that type of underground scene was allowing me to like use that as influence for later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always tried it. Always doodling on paper was another one that I loved to subconsciously do in class. Like that was always my jam. I was never really like super good, but I always like putting in the effort and just seeing what I could do. I've always still curious to know what my graffiti game would be if I like went
Took it.
all in
Yeah.
with it.
Did
But
you have a name and stuff too?
yeah, I wrote ethos,
Okay.
defining myself as like a character because at the
Yeah.
time I really liked the idea of doing characters, but yeah, I never really mastered it at some point, or the way that I wanted to, the
Yeah.
expectations that I set for myself. So that again kind of deferred me from like embracing it and continuing on with it. But yeah, it was a huge influence for sure.
Yeah. I did graffiti too.
What'd you write?
Worm.
Worm? Oh,
Worm.
nice.
Worm 47.
Sick.
Yeah. So it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. It eventually it was originally supposed to be Worm 91,
Uh huh.
but when I would write it out, the 91 looked like a 4 and a 7. And I
Oh.
was just kind of like, I'm just gonna do 47.
There
So
you go.
yeah, I ended up getting it like
Nice.
the W47 year
Yeah, yeah.
because it was like, yeah, it was just one of those where I did it from like middle school, and I still like draw now, but
Yeah.
like to be like out and active and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, at one point, as soon as I became of a certain age, I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, yeah, like they're not just gonna like make me clean shit anymore.
True,
So,
true, true, true.
like I'd probably end up getting fined a lot more than just being going to pick up trash or going to
Yeah.
clean walls and stuff. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna go paint like that anymore. So
Yeah, I feel
yeah.
that. But you were active at one point,
Yeah,
right?
I
Yeah,
was. Yeah,
hell yeah.
younger I
Yeah,
was like,
hell yeah.
and I was kind of the same way where it was like you were like you said like wheat pasting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did a lot of like sticker shit.
Okay,
So it
yeah.
was like I would have like big stickers um, that I would literally just like peel, slap it somewhere, and then just like be able to like do that.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I would have like smaller stickers that would fit like on my palm,
Mm-hmm.
and like if I would go somewhere, it was like already like ready to go, just kind of like and then just walk
Yeah,
away
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Easy,
And I
easy.
remember one of the things that I remember for sure, like in high school when I was like slapping stickers around and stuff, it was a lot easier. It didn't feel so bad to throw away stickers if they were gonna do like a search,
Mm.
um, compared to like having to throw away markers or paint markers that
Mm.
like one cost a fuck ton sometimes. Where it
Yeah,
was like
seriously.
I had like these Posca markers.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Mm-hmm.
like the big chunky ones, and I remember having those and being like, yo, like I can't wait to take this to like bomb, but it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, no, I don't want to take this shit cost me like $6 for
Hell
this one thing,
yeah, hell
and then you're having
yeah.
to throw it away. I'm like, damn, like nah, this sucks. So yeah, that was one of those for sure.
Dang, I
Um,
remember some embarrassing ass story when I was first trying to like there was that one it's called 1 a.m. the graph store in SF, and I was like trying to get supplies or whatever, and
mhm.
I'm walking in, I'm like, you got I was hot off of exit through the gift shop. Like, you got any mops? Like, yeah, you got some right here. All right, tight. How long does it last? And then they're like, I mean, it could last 2 seconds if if you really crank it out. I was like, okay, so like, how many tags? Or I wanted to be like ask questions
Yeah,
without being like feeling like a narc or something,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, what a dumbass. But
Yeah, man, it's just one of those.
yeah.
Because even for me, like writing when I would like draw on paper and stuff like that,
Hmm.
like one of my friends, he used to draw like a straight line,
Hmm.
and kind of like that would be where he would like set his letters and kind of like
Okay,
build
yeah,
off of
yeah,
that.
right.
And I remember one time someone was like, man, like his lines are too straight. Like that dude uses a ruler, like blah blah blah, and like he took hella offense to that. And I
Yeah.
was kind of like, but you do use a ruler, like you draw the line to. Like, and he was like, nah, like that's hella different, bro. Like he's saying like when I do like the 3D on my
Yeah.
letter, like he says that I use a ruler, like. Man, like, and he got so offended because I was just like, "But you do use a ruler," and he's just like, like he was like that's so fucking like, why are you gonna tell me I use a fucking ruler? Like you see me not using a ruler. I was just like, chill, bro. Like I didn't even fucking know like it was that serious. So some people were really about it, and then
Mm-hmm.
some people kind of like me. Like I loved being able to interact with other like writers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So besides like the crew that I ultimately affiliated with,
Mm-hmm.
like I talked to everybody. I was always just, like a
Nice.
lot of people just were like, yeah, like I know you, like I know you're like in this group, but I have you in class and you're like super fucking chill,
Yeah,
man. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna like fucking have a problem with you the whole time. It's like
That's
yeah.
tight.
So there was that, and then kind of like you, I did draw characters a lot more than I did like lettering.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of those where it was a point where people would be like, hey, like can you do a character over like my name and
Yeah.
on this black book? I'm like, yeah. And I remember I had a really really thick black book that I wanted to kind of like make it like a coffee table art book where I got like a bunch of people to like do stuff in, and I think it had like I had like 15, 20 people from my school like in it already.
Yeah.
And one, I gave it to this one guy, and I literally was telling all of them like, just do just do the shit at home. Like, don't like take your time, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
just give it back.
Right.
And then people would like kind of like bring it back overnight. Some people would take like a week, and then one of my friends, um, he was just like, yeah, I got you, bro. Like, I'll do it at home. And then he first thing he did the next day was bring it to his class,
Mm-hmm.
pull it out, and start like working out some details on his thing.
Yeah.
And someone said, "Wow, that's really nice. Like, oh, did you do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was like I did this one." And then he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Thanks." And he turned around, and it was the principal of the
Oh.
school.
He's like, yeah, yeah. Thanks for the
Yeah,
compliment.
and
Damn.
then yeah, so he the principal confiscated the book,
Damn.
and in that book, like when it's your book, like it's like you have the time to like work the front cover of it, and you like do the super nice thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
or even like you go right to the middle and you do like the super like spreader piece or
Yep.
whatever. So
Yep.
I remember doing like a really big ostrich, and it took me like 3 hours just to get like the hair on the ostrich, like
Woo.
just hatch stroking it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
like, yo, this is gonna look hella sick. Like people are gonna see this first and be able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like go through all of it. Yeah, man, I never got that book back. I
Ah.
never got that book back. And that was one of those where I was just kind of like, damn, like if I had that book, even if it had like the 20 people in there, like
Right. Right.
people were like that shit was gonna look hella tight, being able to like
Damn.
show like my friends like, yeah, man, I did this in high school.
That's
So
gnarly.
um
I still got mine.
yeah.
I still got my black books. I got MQ in one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
he was outside of my school one time. He was hitting up a wall. And he was like tucked behind this little bus stop thing, and my homie's like, "Dude, that's MQ right there." I was like, "Oh shit, what's good?" I had my book ready, and he's like, "Which I didn't know which one it was though." And he's
Hmm.
like, "Well, he's painting in blue, so look for the homie with the blue can or the blue paint or whatever."
Yeah.
And then I tucked in my book, and he's like, tucked back in, threw his shit down, came back out, gave it to me. I was like, fucking sick,
Yeah.
dude. That was like that was one of the all time moments for sure for that book.
I one of my big influences with graffiti was Ewok.
Oh yes,
That's
that was
and I
OG.
it's one of the coolest for me it's one of the coolest things even now, like uh because he responds back on Instagram.
Oh word,
So like I'll hit
nice.
him up and I'll be like,
Yeah,
yo, bro, like, and obviously he probably hits me up more often back because like the first message that I gave him a few years back was like, yo, bro, like you're like my biggest influence,
hell
and
yeah,
I did characters because of you and blah blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
um he was like, thank you so much, blah blah blah. And then after that, like I'll comment on stuff from the
Right.
story,
Yeah.
and then he'll like just be like, "Yo, thanks so much," like blah blah, blah, like y'all was working on this or I'm doing that, and I'll be like,
See,
"Yo,
that's
that's so cool."
sick. That's
So it's one of
sick.
those where it's like it's tight. He hasn't followed back, but I'm not
That's
gonna be
all.
like, "Yo, like why don't you follow back?"
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like whatever. But yeah, it's one of those cool things where like seeing someone that inspired you to do stuff
Mm-hmm.
replies back to you, and they don't They're not like a dick about it
Right,
either.
right.
So that's one of the nice things to
Hell
see.
yeah, I got on Revoke's radar too
Oh,
from
really?
MSK. Yeah, I
Nice.
started like reposting his stuff on my No Room for Crema account,
Yeah.
and then I migrated back. But yeah, he still responds. He's always like, I asked him a few things, especially at that time when I was going through. I'm like, bro, how do you just clear your head and just stay on top of it? And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, I just go for a walk sometimes, or I do this, or I do that. And I'm like, tight. So yeah, it's cool to, like you said, just have someone who you look up to just respond. You kind of feel seen and like, oh yeah, I do matter. Like these
Yeah.
people are more humbling than, are more humble than I thought. So that's
Yeah.
tight.
Speaking of like clearing your mind and stuff like that,
Yeah.
what is what is your like process for that now? Like, what are some of the things
Dang.
that you do to when you're starting something new or working on a new design,
Yeah.
especially now that you're doing the collective and the residency?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the obstacles that you face during this time,
Yeah.
and then how what was like ways that you felt like you were able to solve it for yourself?
Yeah. So for one, the artist in residency is was like my way to separate myself as an artist from the brand,
Yeah,
but also like have a big send off and then use it as a template for future artists to come in and do it. But for me, it like came in quick. I think in October I was putting the plan together. This was after recently taking a step back from working with my neighbor, the homie, Alex Nobody. We were trying to build an agency.
yeah,
We were in a spot where we just needed opportunity. We were had a lot of energy, had a lot of momentum about what we wanted to do, but ultimately it just became like us trying to chase money. And although we got involved in a lot of cool projects, we didn't get involved with the projects that were fulfilling to us the way we wanted to start it out
yeah,
as. So then we kind of said like, hey, let's take a step back. Let's reevaluate. Do we want to move forward with this? Do we want to, pursue other things? And he expressed that he wanted to really master his photography more and really invest more time into that. And for me, I didn't necessarily like have a definitive answer as to what I wanted physically, but I knew I wanted um, some sort of ownership, some sort of like just creativeness. Yeah, there were like a handful of things that I wanted in that perspective, and I didn't really care like what it was. If it was the agency, great. If not, then what was it? So after hearing that, I was like, Stay Brown. I think I started it. I didn't really commit to it, but I'm willing to commit to it. I just got to figure out how to do it. And because
yeah,
anytime anyone asked me about it, I was just like, I could only tell them the concept of what it was, and I
yeah,
couldn't really be specific about like Stay Brown is this. So it took a lot of time and effort and energy just to figure out what that was. And at some point, I just kept writing it down in different ways. And Stay Brown is a community-based streetwear brand dedicated to telling resilient brown stories. So I felt like, as the owner, as a creator, I wanted to tell my story first. So with that, that was figuring all that out in October, and then realizing, shit, I got to start in November. Like November 1st, got to be the first day that I'm gonna be
yeah,
making this happen. So all of a sudden, again, just like push myself into this opportunity for myself. Um, with an ultimate goal of being able to set it up for other people. So going through this, being a dad, having a job, being a homie, just all the different aspects of my life, realizing how to balance those and seeing young kids just like hammer out shit. And I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, I
yeah,
want that so bad. But even like through my fatherhood journey, I realized I can't stay up past, midnight for more than one or two times a week, or else my whole week's like shit.
yeah,
So like just accepting those kinds of things and working through them, working around them, so I'm not feeling just stuck or like overworked. Striking the balance was key for me. But like, yeah, I think that was also the challenge too, because it was, how do I creatively include my children in my process without them feeling neglected, or without feeling like they can't be a part of what I'm doing.
yeah,
Same thing with the misses. Definitely important to make sure that not only as a mother that she gets love and respect, but as my wife, the two separate things, and I've been victim to falling into just one or the other. But again, striking that balance and finding that balance are all the challenges. And then um, I'm working for the San Jose Earthquakes as the lead graphic designer. So luckily they are in good understanding of like my situation and what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build, and they're
Yeah.
grateful to just even have me on their team. So it's been super flexible on their end, that I've been able to rock the way I am. So super grateful for that. But even then, like they call me to do stuff, and I'm having to work through that in between meetings and things like that, just trying to crank through stuff. So realized I had this crazy deadline that I had to meet. It was like all of November, I was just gonna work through shit, develop content, and then December just release it all.
Yeah.
Because in the past, I've just released product and then expected people to like understand the full story and the intent behind what I was doing, and a lot of the times it just goes over everyone's head,
Yeah.
which I don't blame them. So it's up to me to really be able to slow that down and tell the story of like all the effort that's going into this stuff. So that's where like, okay, I got to document all these key moments, and I got to slow down like just how I'm expressing it and how I'm telling that story. So that's where the process videos. Today is going to be the last one. It's going to be just a sneak peek of the lookbook.
Yeah.
So and I knew I didn't keeping up with content sucks. Like keeping
Yeah.
up with making shit sucks. So it was really like defining days, working with Alex to define certain days to make sure it's like, okay, I have this content. Because I knew for December, I didn't want to be like stressing and working too much to try to get all this shit out
Yeah.
and out the right way. Because as creators, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves with quality and detail and things like that, intention. Because why else would you do it? So a lot of that had to overcome, and then just sheer anxiety and just moments of depression or just those ruts that you get into, and feeling like it's not worth it, you're not good enough, it's not going to
Yeah.
be what you want, um, and sort of I like to call it strategically losing control of my life, because
Yeah.
can't control everything, but all you can control is yourself, your emotions, and how you react to things. So it's like, okay, well, how? Even then, to this day, it's like a challenge. But I think with all those, figuring it out, putting it to the test, I give out a lot of advice, but haven't really completely taken my own and
Yeah.
seen if it worked. I just know based on like what I've seen. So this has been my opportunity to express that as well and show like, hey, all these things that I'm telling you about, it's not just for talk, like it actually works. And learning and adjusting based on your own situation. I converted so I've been living in this duplex for the past year, a little over a year, and I converted the living room into my office.
Yeah.
So we just like this whole like non-conventional way of living kind of thing, but um, figuring that out and understanding the space, and there's no door, so the girls just come in and run in all crazy all the time,
Yeah.
and adjusting how I react to that. And I don't want them to like, they know, in general it's not a good idea to go in my office, but it's also like expressing, well, you're not in trouble if you come in here, but understand that sometimes there's things that you can touch and you can hurt yourself. So
Yeah.
like giving them that space and understanding for what it is. Um and two, like the missus needs attention, she wants, she's with the girls all day, so just really giving her, I let her, she does her gym routine in the morning, and I'm trying to figure out how to give her more time. We recently, my first daughter, she started a school program, so she's going part-time every day, so but then we got the other one, trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
figure that out. But ultimately, yeah, all these challenges really, in the past, I'd really just dwell over them, like why, getting frustrated about it. But now, a little more, it's getting more easier to just accept it, understand it, that this is just what happens, and timing is divine. So you can't speed it up, you can't slow it down. You just kind of have to find this flow and like this realization that it will come when you're ready, and when you move, the universe world moves around you. So understanding a lot of those things for me was key to get through those hurdles. Breathing, understanding how to just give yourself the space and the time and the more positive inner dialogue
Yeah.
has been key. So again, that's where I felt like Stay Brown as a brand, as it grows, like I'm growing as a person because you can't really dedicate yourself as an entrepreneur if you're not right with yourself and you're not right with how you want to move forward with yourself. So a lot of that inner work was going on, and it goes hand in hand with Stay Brown. I mean, the brown color itself represents foundation, represents there's a whole list of research that I did of all the things that brown represents. But yeah, a lot of foundation, family, warmth, tradition, things like that. So, are grounding, right? So with that too, like that also helps me bring a sense of grounding myself and making sure I like checking in with
Yeah.
myself. So yeah.
Do you plan on keeping Stay Brown more exclusive to like brown creators, or are you planning to be more inclusive of others?
Yeah, so that was the interesting part about my journey was so Stay Brown ultimately stemmed from the movie La Mission. I
Yeah.
don't know if you heard that. Yeah, so the dad and the son, that's what they would tell each other as a way to just like it's kind of like their hug before they
Yeah.
left or whatever whenever they departed. So it stems from Chicanoism, Latin culture, Mexican culture, and then the more that I dove into resiliency and the color brown and different cultures. It's like every culture has a sense of resiliency, has this idea of work, making the best of what you have,
Yeah.
and not necessarily complaining about it, but just like, hey, this is what it is, and this is what we got to do. Having pride in that. So, I mean, even this setup is like something that typically if a kid with money would be able to just buy his way into anything,
Yeah.
but like we make what we have like with what we have, and I think that's a beautiful thing because eventually, little by little, you get upgrading here and
Yeah.
there, and as you pursue and go through this journey, like it naturally just comes to be. But it's like putting you to the test, like if if from a universe perspective, like if you really want to feel good and be good, like are you taking care of yourself and are you honoring your journey and your this space? So that's what ultimately like opens up, the blessings and all those sort of things. So yeah, it's a lot of that understanding.
So it comes from so Stay Brown comes from the movie.
So
Oh,
Stay Brown, yeah, the actual term comes from the movie, and then I realized so this idea of resiliency, this idea that every culture has a sense of it, and then I realized like, damn, well, we're all just different shades of brown,
yeah.
realistically. So that's where, um, in my process, I do want to be more inclusive on telling the stories. I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, the Latino culture for sure is gonna like be strong, and I'm not part of most of me is like just stay true to how you want to roll with it, and everyone will sort of
Yeah.
come by. But part of me is like, do I just sort of focus on Latinos at first? But I think the point of what I'm learning in my journey right now is if you have a goal, like stick to it from day one. Like try
Yeah.
to stay adhere as close as possible to it, because even if it's not exactly that, like you're gonna end up in the space
Yeah.
that you were originally looking for. So with that, I'm like, yeah, stay inclusive from day one. So that's kind of the plan of like, I'm gonna host 2 to 3 artists in residence. Um,
Are you planning to do it every quarter?
so yeah, breaking down. I'm gonna do for the quarter or like quarterly do the artist in residence series, but in between that, try to do basic wear. With just simple design. I got mocked up a bunch of designs based off of streetwear brands, but it's gonna be more about who's gonna be wearing it. So
Yeah.
as I suit people up like yourself, for this first year, I wanted to use Alex, nobody, to be the photographer because I admire the way that when he does like lifestyle portrait photo shoots, it's really this experience. We met up with Mr. Fuchila, Ruben, and Gilroy,
Yeah.
and really got a chance to like explore his space, went out to lunch and everything. And just the whole time we're kind of just documenting, oh, it's a sick ass spot right here, post up. And then take a few flicks, go to another spot. Hey, this is sick right here too. Or you just whip out his film camera or eating or whatever and just catch a few moments. But I loved how it naturally brought the best out of someone and without like really having to try too hard. So the model was like do that, but with entrepreneurs and other
Yeah.
folks. I originally wanted to start in San Jose and then branch from there to see if I can build that community. But that I think that's key for me is this idea of community. I mean, shout out Bobby Hundreds and the Hundreds in general.
Yeah.
Just laying down that idea of a successful brand is revolved around community and what you do for them and what you hold, the space that you hold for them, as opposed to like it's a sick ass design, just put it out and someone's gonna
Yeah.
buy it.
So when like for your current residency, you
Hmm.
have it's you and Alex pretty much. You're the creative artist that's working on the designs, and Alex is the one taking like the photography and helping you kind of like do that story. When you do other residencies, do you plan for them to kind of be like, you know what, I have my own Alex here. Like this is the guy that I've been working with forever. Like I want him to help me document. Like, are you planning to pretty much have the people do like that kind of partner up, or do you want Alex to kind of like oversee it, kind of like how you would be overseeing like
Right.
the residency as well?
Right. Yeah, I definitely plan on it. Well, originally, I mean, that's a good point that you bring it up. Originally, I wanted Alex to be along for the ride for this first year. I mean, he's expressed his interest in it, but he also strongly expressed that he feels it's best if we do utilize more photographers in San Jose or just more photographers in general, just because there's so much talent out there. And I agreed with him. And so it's kind of like, okay, he's gonna help me get off the ground, set the template. But and then to your point, like if it is for another artist in residence, it would be like if they have someone they can definitely tap on to just really document everything, and they could feel comfortable. I'm still like figuring out the details of it because there's a space in San Jose called Local Color,
Yeah,
and they kind of do the opportunities for creatives and things like that. And I wanted to like be in their space, but I realized like I would have to supply all the screen printing stuff and all that. And then it made me think like, well, what kind of artists am I gonna tap in on? And so ultimately, Artist in Residence series will be an artist or creative, someone who ideally would take something found, apply new art or paint or graphics to it, and then essentially upcycling it um, as a way of expressing their sense of resiliency
yeah,
and applying new energy to something to bring it out into the world. So and then so 1 month will be all process, and then the other month will just be like releasing all the content for the series. But in between that, again, will be just the basic wear to continue the storytelling beyond creatives and things like that. So hoping
with
for the
the
best.
like with the upcycling too. Did that originate from anywhere else, or was that something that you um, picked up and were like? Because I know at least from some of the when we had conversations like through like Instagram and stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
you were showing me how you use the Cricut,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're doing screen printing. But
Mm-hmm.
with the Cricut, like and upcycling, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what it is. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
upcycle with the Cricut and
Yeah, yeah.
upcycling. Um, did the idea of upcycling come because it was like I have this shirt here that I'm not gonna wear. Let me practice on it, or is it something that
Nice.
you've seen someone else do? Because I know there's artists like Two Creep where he
Never
kind of
heard
like
of.
upcycles. Like he'll get a jacket,
Uh huh.
he'll get like an umbrella,
Uh
he'll
huh.
get like some pants or
Yeah,
something, and
yeah.
then he like makes it into like a tote bag or makes it into like
Mm.
a
That's
fanny
real
pack and stuff like
upcycling.
that.
Hell
Like
yeah.
so that's where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that you've seen other people doing or other brands doing, and you said, you know what, like this is something that already do,
Mm-hmm.
so let me embrace it more? Or is this something that you were just kind of like it just came from nowhere?
So as I reintroduce myself into the idea of streetwear, it was like there are a lot of brands out here and they're moving fast. Like
Yeah,
it's all fast fashion. Most of it just gets produced and then ends up somewhere that it's not supposed to. So I was like, how do I, if I'm going to come into this industry, like how do I fix that? How do I help that in some way? So sustainability, I was big on thrifting at the time. I had like a little thrift shop called Washed Up Fashion that I was doing through Poshmark and everything, and I pretty much made my money back, but I had hella clothes left, and I couldn't really keep up with posting things, and it really wasn't giving me the satisfaction that I was looking for. I love thrifting. I love looking through the racks
yeah,
and getting surprised and things like that, but it was like most of the shirts I could find really weren't that hype, so it's like I couldn't really flip things too crazy or anything like that, and I didn't really have that kind of knowledge and insight. It was kind of like right when it started getting popular, so I was kind of a little bit on the forefront, but definitely not originator. So but then that was like, okay, well, during the pandemic, got the Cricut, got the vinyl. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna make my own shit and seeing how it works out. I think some of the people I was following, there's an account called Better with Age, and he kind of does something similar, or he started out with something similar, but now he's like mixing textures and all kinds of shit. And then I found other people who were doing other more like outerwear and things like
yeah,
that. So, and then I mean, the one thing that I wanted to accomplish in streetwear was like big bold messaging. I feel like my generation and the people that I've interacted with, the sense of ego and the sense of being cool, too cool for things, really like in my perspective did a lot of negative damage. I mean, it was like I was so quick to make fun of myself as a strategy to like, all right, don't stop talking shit about me. Like I'm gonna make fun of myself so you won't talk
yeah,
shit about me. Um, and then, but eventually it was like we're all talking shit about each other, and then that inner dialogue, that's all it is just talking shit about yourself or
yeah,
talking shit about other people. So a lot of that, like I wanted to do away with and just work through it. And so positive messaging, Chinatown Market, which is now Market, was popping at the time, and they were just like, have a nice day and be positive and all this shit. So I
yeah,
was like, tight, like that's cool. Like they're a brand, they're doing it, they're getting big, they're getting recognized, and they're pushing a positive narrative. So I was like, okay, well, how can I do that, and what's my version of that? And then Stay Brown. I've seen Stay Brown like just as a concept, and knew I was like, if I'm gonna do something, this was like during the BLM movement. And I was like, if I'm gonna do something, I got to do it now because eventually someone's gonna catch on, someone's gonna
yeah,
try
yeah,
it out. So I kind of just like planted my seed. I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna own it. Um, at first, I was trying to get real radical about it and was like, all right, I'm gonna try to find a way to sell information about culture or whatever, and then give the clothes away for free and just like
mm-hmm.
make it a whole free thing. And yeah, that never. I'm
Kind
still finding a way to try to figure that
kind of
out,
like
but
that loophole that they used to do like at school, like these napkins are $5, but you get like free like sandwich with this
oh
napkin kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
stuff
so
like that. Because even like the Tom's model, like buy a shirt, give a shirt, kind of thing.
yeah,
So yeah, sustainability and that all. That's where it kind of all stemmed from. Was just me thrifting, me wanting to do something with the shirts, apply my artistic skill set to it. Um, I hated, I hated buying the only real brands that I gave my money to for some reason, even though I admired all of them, was Chinatown Market, The Hundreds, and Stussy.
mm,
When I think about the communities that they created, I mean, ultimately they all kind of had like a really nice tone in how they created their people and their community. So kind of makes sense. But other than that, like I refuse to buy shit. I'm like I can make something better. I can make something better.
yeah.
And then, but I never did. So eventually, like came to that point where like, all right, well, what can I do? What am I gonna do? And so yeah, that's kind of like the sustainability factor of it.
So do you plan on kind of like, I know you saying that you wanted to sell like info and then like the shirt is free or the
Hmm.
shirt comes with the information. Do you plan on doing that in the future
I
as
mean,
well?
it might definitely be a campaign.
Yeah.
I can see that being a campaign at some point because, yeah, streetwear has been such like this crazy movement, and kids are like making money off of it, some real money, and it's crazy to see. I'm super happy to see that. But at the same time, it's like, damn, like that's ridiculous. So
Yeah,
how can I shake it up? It's always like shaking things up, flipping things on its head, and then giving it back out and like making you accept it kind
yeah,
of thing.
no,
Opening your mind. I think I realized early on that whatever I do, I want to make people think.
yeah,
Like, because we get so autopilot and just like so caught in our own ways. So when you stop and like are interacting face to face with something that makes you think, it's like, oh shit, then you're just rethinking everything at some
yeah.
point, right? So
With that also, just like with the residency, how many do you plan on having to be like 4 months, 3 months, like a quarterly thing, or like because you had mentioned where it's 3 artists a year.
mhm.
Does that include yourself, or is that 3 artists only?
3 artists only. So I'm like developing the template for it.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, the first month is going to be a lot of checking in, kind of just showing like raw behind the scenes, but also capturing content for later. And then the second month is just releasing and just really interacting. I got inspired by another account. I forgot what it was called, but I went on his live and he was kind of talking about the same thing. Was like, oh, with this campaign or with this series, like I've been more interactive. I was posting every day. I was getting involved with my following, and all of a sudden just blew up. Okay, let me try that. Let me see what's good. So I think I definitely need to do more like reaching out and more interaction and things. But so far, like that show in LA, everyone that I told my story to was super happy to hear it, super happy to hear someone like have a story.
yeah,
So I think that's what like motivated me more to keep telling it. And so next year, think knowing that it's going to be a 2 month deal, I think I'm only going to be able to manage at least one or two, if anything. um, but again, it would be a brown creative. Um, I would ideally make it diverse. Fortunately, unfortunately, I have a lot of like Chicano friends and things like
yeah.
that, so it might just fall into that for this first year.
Yeah,
But the in betweens could be the opportunity
yeah.
to liven that
It's
up.
definitely one of those things where, like, I was talking to my wife last night actually,
Hmm.
and or actually I was talking to my sister. I was telling her, like, yeah, I wanna. I'm having Theodore from Stay Brown, and then
Hmm.
I'm having Martin from Amor Kombucha
Hell yeah.
come in, and we're doing the Roscas thing for January, and I just felt like it was, like I said earlier, it was one of those things where I wanna kind of like give January that, because at least for the Hispanic or Latino culture, like um, obviously if you're not Catholic, I think obviously if you're not Catholic, you don't know what the rosca really is,
Hmm.
but it's just one of those where um, the rosca is part of that culture.
Right.
Like everyone comes on January 6th to eat
Mm,
the rosca, find the
true.
baby, and if you get the baby, now you have to like host some tamales like later on.
Yeah, yeah.
But my sister was like, "Oh well, in February you should do like, um, what was it? In February you should do like Black History Month, and on this you should do
Mm.
this, and on this is you should." And I was just like, well, like I wasn't thinking that
Yeah,
far.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
was
yeah.
just kind of like, I only have like Latinos that I know
True, true.
at the moment
Hmm.
that are, when I reached out, were like, yeah, I'm hella down to do that, and
Hmm.
I'd be like, okay, cool. Um, but for you though, like even if you do have a lot of Latinos, and you said you're planning to be more inclusive with Stay Brown,
Hmm.
because it's something more of, instead of being like, it's not just brown the skin color, but more being true to yourself, true to
Hmm.
the ground.
Hmm.
Um, where do you see yourself, or where do you see like Stay Brown in the next like 12 months?
I would love for it to be just like one of the most recognized brands in San Jose, if not the Bay Area for sure. Um, and I want people to feel proud of being a part of something. Um, you know that it's something that everyone can just get behind and feel confident telling each other, like keeping each other up and motivating each other. There's a lot of that doesn't happen there's a lot that does happen, but yeah, as a brand, like I would love for it to be just someone brought the idea to me. Like there's San Jose Blue Jeans, where they just have like the East Side, just all the cholo like basic wear, right? Hats, fitteds,
Yeah,
pants, shirts, everything. And he's like, you should have like a run in there, and I was like, yeah, that'd be tight. Like all the cholos in the East Side, like rocking Stay Brown like that,
yeah,
because they have the iconic East Side San Jose or whatever East Side, West Side, North Side, but they have it in Old English on the back, and then it just has like the SJ on the front. And I
yeah,
was like, dude, like that's so classic. It's such like a classic thing. It's a staple. Like you either have the jacket or you have the hoodie or you have like oh no, I'm not wearing that shirt, but I'm wearing the San Jose Giants shirt. Um, Another iconic one, but it's yeah, it's that. Like I want people to feel prideful of it, and like also wearing it knowing that they want to better themselves and like stay true to themselves, because
yeah,
at one point, like when I was going through a really rough time, I had a pair of the shorts that I did that everyone still wanted, but I had one extra pair that I just kept just in case, brand new. My other one was worn out, and at that moment I was having a hard time, and I'm like, all right, well, if I'm gonna put these shorts on, like I'm gonna dedicate to being like whenever I have these on, I'm gonna dedicate to being the best that I can be.
yeah,
So like I want people to feel that when they wear it. Like when I'm wearing this, like I'm feeling prideful of who I am, I'm feeling prideful of what I'm doing, and I just want to be the best that I can be. So ideally, yeah, it's like literally I'm defining that in my head as I'm
yeah.
saying
No,
it,
no.
but it is it is those questions, or those kind of questions lead to what it could ultimately be. And yeah, I think it would be about storytelling. I think it's just my outlet of storytelling, so being able to tell the stories and just keep myself in the space that I can continue to just be me, work with great folks, tell great stories, and just get people to think, rethink, and consider themselves for sure.
Yeah, this is
Hmm.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Well, Theodore, it was really good having you
Hell yeah.
on today. Um. Before we sign off, where can people like reach you? Via like social media, via email, or anything like that. I will post it on the description of the episode.
Yeah.
But where's somewhere people can reach
Yeah.
you or
I'm
see
on
some of your work?
I'm on IG, my personal account underscore Theodore1991. And then I'm going to be actively pushing staybrown.ww is the account now, shortened worldwide. I saw someone else do it, and I'm like, that's a cool way of saying
Yeah,
worldwide without having to do the whole thing. So yeah, staybrown.ww or underscore Theodore1991. My personal artist series, I'm trying to continue the upcycling, do more like outerwear, combining garments and things like
yeah,
that. So that's where like I'm trying to separate myself. And then yeah, Stay Brown is just gonna be my little baby that I'm gonna take care of and manage and give that space to be free. Because yeah, putting other people on, providing the platform, and just getting right with everyone is key.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
that's it. Yeah,
Again, thank you everyone
thank
for
you.
listening in. Again, my name is Frank Espino, Polaroid Fox, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Stay brown.